On this episode, we sit down with Phra Pandit to discuss the surprisingly complicated history behind the simple act of giving alms.
So, if you've ever wondered about the early morning lines of monks getting their daily donations of food and supplies, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001 because I thought the song said one might in Bangkok, and I had to find out what one might do. It's a lot of work for that intro.
Yeah, that's going to take some processing. And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 19 years ago and fell in love with trying to figure out if my sore throat was due to the pollen in the air or the pollution. And so I never left. We want to say a quick thank you to one of our patrons, Bank Wichai Narong, who supports us at the show shoutout level. Stick around after our interview with Phra Pandit on the tradition of giving alms to hear why Bank is our inside man when it comes to helping us understand Thai memes. Before we start, a huge thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a whole bunch of cool stuff, including our regular show a day early, behind-the-scenes photos and videos of our interviews, discounts on swag, which you can find on our website, and various other things that aren't available to regular listeners. But best of all, patrons like Bank also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and random topics. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and we chatted about a recent case of defamation that resulted in yet another Thai journalist getting thrown in prison due to Thailand's very loosely defined libel laws, and how it affects us as we make the podcast each week, as well as a follow-up to last week's bonus show where we find out exactly why a male porn star was the most searched name in Thailand. To become a patron, head to bangkokpodcast.com/support.
Right on. All right. Well, on this episode, which will be the very first of the magical year 2020, we sit down with our old friend Phra Pandit to get the inside scoop on giving and receiving alms. Now, you've no doubt seen photos of monks holding their bāṭ, or alms bowl, walking around in the morning, getting donations from those wishing to gain a few karma points. But we wanted to know more about this. It's like, why do you give alms, and how do you give them, and when do you give them? And what do the monks do with the stuff they get? And how did the practice of giving alms begin? So, to find all this out, I sat down with Phra Pandit at his temple to learn a little bit more about it. All right, well, we're very happy to welcome back to the show our old friend Phra Pandit, our senior monk correspondent, senior Buddha correspondent. Welcome back to the show, sir. I wanted to get you on to talk about something that was piqued with a story I read in the New York Times about almsgiving. Piqued. All right. It piqued my interest. It was a story about almsgiving, and it made me realize how much I don't know about almsgiving. One of the many topics that I don't know a lot about. And this particular story said that it has become an issue now of some concern for certain people, that a lot of people are giving monks junk food, unhealthy food. And now obesity is a rising problem for many monks in many countries around the world. So it got me started to thinking, well, what is almsgiving? How does it work? Where did it start? What do you think of it? And how do you use it in your daily life? So can you just talk a little bit about how it's expected to work into the life of a monk?
Sure. Almsgiving predates Buddhism. So it was a tradition that the Buddha adopted. In India at the time, there were two main religious traditions. One was the Brahmin tradition, or Vedic tradition.
Okay.
Primarily a recitation tradition, and a lot of emphasis on sound and recitation of Vedas. And the other tradition was the Samana tradition, which is the monks. This probably goes back to the Indus Valley civilization. And the idea there was that civilization was what comes up when you get rid of the forests. Forests were evil things with nasty creatures where people died, with
Oh, really?
ghosts and monsters. And civilization was cutting down the forest. This is why in Western fairy tales, whenever you see a woodcutter, the woodcutter is always a good character in a fairy tale because he chops down the evil, nasty forest.
Like the guy who rescued Little Red Riding Hood's grandma from the wolf.
So you don't want to be in a forest. So the woodcutter is the good guy.
Interesting.
So in the Indus Valley civilization, they had this tradition where people would leave the city and go and live in the forest, which is a quite remarkable thing to do. The idea was that if you emulate animals, you will gain the power of that animal. So if you emulate a dog or a tiger or a wolf, you'll start to gain the special powers of the wolf or the tiger. We have a similar idea today with eating things, right? That if you eat something, you will get the power of it. This is why the Chinese use rhinoceros horn as a erectile dysfunction solution.
Yeah.
Why you have tigers' bile, their gallbladders and things like this. Still have this idea today that what you eat somehow will give you the power of that thing. When I was young, vegetarians, people said they're white and pasty because you need meat. It's the idea that you're getting the power of the animal. These days, people like if you eat beans, then you become a very peaceful person.
What?
Yeah, I mean, the vegetarians say that their anger diminishes when they stop eating meat and things like this. I'm just saying that there is a very pervasive idea throughout humanity.
You are what you eat.
That you can imbibe the essence of something, either through literally eating it or through emulating it. So the Samana tradition was these people who would go out into the forest and practice ascetic practices to gain psychic powers, gain special powers. And they would usually either shave their head or never cut their hair, one or the other. They would also tend to wear robes. And they would be mendicants, so they would come into the city to get their food. And people would feed them either to keep them out of the city or maybe to get some special powers or blessings from these people. So this is where the tradition came from. When the Buddha was alive, there already was this very strong samana tradition or monkhood tradition with certain forms and expectations. So the Buddha adopted these and started to formalize it and make certain rules for the monks. And so, for example, originally, the monks would go into the town for their alms food whenever they felt like it, which would be 2-3 times a day. And at one point, the lay people complained to the Buddha and said, all these monks of yours, they're costing us a lot of food. And the Buddha went to his monks and said, monks, I go into town for my food once a day, and I'm happy and I'm satisfied. And the monks said, oh, very, very good. And the Buddha left. And then the monks conferred and said, we go into town for our alms food 3 times a day, and we're happy and we're satisfied. So that was how they got around the rule. So after that, the Buddha said, okay, you didn't get the hint that I gave you, so now I make the rule. Monks, you go into the town once a day for your alms food. Oh. And that was how the morning alms round came to be, that was the quarter of the day. So the first quarter of the day, from sunrise to midday, is the time when you're allowed to go into town to collect your alms food.
Really? Okay. And the general gist of how it works now in the 21st century is that in the morning you have a special bowl, an alms bowl.
Yes.
Does it have to be a special bowl or can it be any bowl?
I guess it could be any bowl, but when you ordain, you're given a bowl as part of your ordination kit. You get a water filter, a razor blade, an alms bowl, and some robes.
Oh, okay.
So you get a kit. And in the ordination ceremony itself, different people will carry different parts of your kit around the temple 3 times. So I think the father carries the alms bowl because that's how you make your living from now on.
I see.
Your mother will carry your robes. And your girlfriend will carry your pillow. Because at night you can't hug her, so you're going to hug the pillow while you're a monk.
That's very
until
sweet.
You disrobe.
That's very sweet.
It is. I love the way these traditions come up. I mean, Thais actually are quite relaxed. They're quite serious about it. I mean, they consider it real, but they're also quite relaxed too.
Nice.
So, yes, you get your alms bowl, and then the rule is that you go out into the town. You're not allowed to look at people's faces or have any kind of exchange or interaction. You don't say thank you, because the people are supporting the Sangha as a whole. They're supposed to offer to the religion, not to the individual monk. That's why the monk doesn't say thank you or acknowledge the receipt. He's supposed to walk with his eyes downcast, walking silently and mindfully. He's not supposed to stoop down for you to put things into the bowl, although sometimes you do if you have an old lady by the side of the street who can't stand up.
Sure.
So yeah, it's a very kind of serene a kind of ritual, which quite honestly, most of Buddhism has spread through the world through support of monarchies. And so when Thai people see the monarchs and the royal family doing this tradition, then they follow suit and they'll go out into the morning and put the food in the bowl.
So is giving alms to a monk considered sort of a good deed? It's a bit of you get karma points for that?
Yeah, you get good karma points for it. You're increasing your commitment. Again, it's a symbol of your commitments. Buddhism or enlightenment is a very abstract thing. The only way you make abstract things real is to interact with them in a concrete way. So yeah, you go out and put the food in the bowl every morning. It increases your connection with the religion, with the tradition. It increases your karmic connection with enlightenment. And hopefully later when you're ready to start meditating, you'll be that much better, quicker, more able to become enlightened.
So say you are allergic to cotton and someone puts in some cotton bed sheets into your alms bowl.
Okay, you're supposed to put food in the alms bowl.
Only food? But
Yes.
I've seen people put in candles. Don't they put in other sort of Buddhism-related artifacts?
It can happen, I guess, but you're not supposed to. You're supposed to put food, and only cooked food. You're not supposed to put raw rice,
Oh, okay.
uncooked grains, uncooked meat or fish. It's supposed to be things that are ready to eat.
Okay.
It's a question of whether mama are actually ready to eat or not, but people do like to put mama and tins of blagabong into the alms bowl.
Okay. Well, for argument's sake, then, let's say you have a severe gluten allergy and someone puts mama noodles into the bowl. Can you say no? Or can you just give them to someone else later? How does that work?
You're not supposed to say no. And the story was in the scriptures that there was a leper who offered food into the bowl of the monk. And when he put the food in, his finger fell off into the bowl.
Yikes.
And the monk did not give rise to any aversion at all. So remember, stories don't have to be real. Stories are what frame our understanding of the world. They're the shortcuts to the way that we relate to the world. So this story, whether it's real or not, is irrelevant. This is the story that the monks use to show that you are supposed to receive whatever people offer into the bowl, with exceptions of uncooked grains, uncooked meat. Also, you are not permitted to take the meat of tigers, snakes, elephants, and human beings.
I have to pause for a second and say, though, that leper story is probably the most metal Buddhism story I've ever heard. That's crazy. Okay.
But just because you accept something in the bowl doesn't mean you have to eat it.
Right.
So as a vegetarian, I remember in England, a lot of vegetarian monks and Sri Lankans would come and offer a lot of meat. All I can say is there were a lot of very happy cats that afternoon.
What is something that you enjoy getting the most?
No, actually what goes into alms bowls these days is rarely very edible. I mean, it would be a pretty poor diet if you were to eat it in many cases. People do put uncooked rice and grains in and tins of fish. I mean, it has become more symbolic. There was a funny episode with a film crew. You can see this. I have this very popular video on my YouTube channel, doing a little plug there, but was a TV program called English Breakfast, and which would teach English to Thais. And they came around and filmed here one day. And it's just silly nonsense stuff. They just came, lots of silly music, cracking a few jokes, all good humour. And they said to me, we want to film you doing the alms round. Now, in my temple, we don't go on alms round. We have a sala, and we go down to the sala for food. And so I told them this, and they said, never mind, we'll set people up along the street for you. Now, monks from other temples do come around these streets to receive food. So as I went out for alms food in the morning, there's all these people lined up and all these Thai monks walking past. And these people are on the street waving the Thai monks away, going, no, we're not offering you any food.
Oh, no.
And the Thai monks are like, what's going on here? And then I walk along as this farang, and suddenly all these people are putting things into my bowl.
No.
And these Thai monks are looking at me very strangely. So you can see that on YouTube. It all looks very natural, but you can see what's actually going on in the background here. So these days monks may or may not go out onto the alms round in the morning. Like I say, you would rarely try and live on food that you receive from an alms round.
Okay.
The monks do it, as we're taught, to chui lok, to help the world. So it's a duty that monks perform in order to help the world, not necessarily in order to get the food.
All right. So now, like you mentioned that, I mean, back when Buddha made this rule that was how monks ate, but over the centuries it's progressed to the point now where it's almost like a symbolic offering. And
I'd say not centuries, probably in the last 30 years.
Really?
In Bangkok, people are more likely to put a tin of sardines in tomato sauce and a packet of noodles and a big bottle of water. Just little shout out to everybody that wants to offer alms around Doi Suthep Temple in Chiang Mai. We would go for alms in the little town at the foot of the Doi Suthep there, and people like to put into the bowl the thing that they want to get in life. So if they want water in their life, they'll offer water. If they want health in life, they will offer medicines. If they want to be well fed, they'll offer food. If they want to offer to a dead relative, they put the dead relative's favorite food into the bowl. But let me tell you, these bottles of water sometimes can, like 15, 20, 30 little bottles of water. That's 15 kilos. And when we were walking up the steps at Doi Suthep, that is a very long staircase.
Right.
And 15 kilos of water on your shoulder is damn painful. So I would go up the steps, and all the way up, I'd be depositing bottles of water on the steps as I go up. And that's my offering back to the world. Hopefully someone gets thirsty going up the steps and sees a bottle of water there. But yeah, what people offer is not really what the monks would want to receive. It's more a case of that interaction. The monks are supposed to be seen in society every day. Okay. This is the point of contact.
It's interesting what you said about how you put something in the bowl that you want to get back. And that surprises me, because then it means it's not purely a selfless act. It's not done purely for karmic points.
Only a Christian would come up with that.
How dare you call me a Christian, sir? I take offense to that. A reformed former Christian. But you're right. A Western thinker would see sort of this piousness surrounding these.
Say, well, you're doing that for... Well, what are you doing that isn't for selfishness reasons?
But isn't that supposed to be what it's all about giving and supporting and giving to the Sangha?
And it's supporting the Sangha, but it doesn't mean that you're being selfish. I mean, you have a son, you take your son to the hospital. Is that because you want to look after your son, or is that because you want to do your duty as a father? You want to feel good as a father? I mean, you can see it from either direction, so why not see it from the nice direction? If people go out and make an offering to support Buddhism every day, there's nothing, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but it's just interesting to me that there's another element there, like this is for you, and also I can get some medicine out of this too. I'm not saying it's a selfish thing, it's just an interesting element of it that I never thought of. It's
an idea of association. So again, you eat the liver of a tiger, it gives you the strength of a tiger. It's an association thing. If I sold you a boxing glove, you might pay $5 for it, but if it had Muhammad Ali's signature on it and it was real, you might pay $100,000 for it. Did that signature add an essence to the glove? No, it's just by an association. It's the story connected to the glove that you're buying into. So it's the same with making offerings. It's a story that you're buying into. The stories inform the way you understand the world, the way you interact with the world. So why not have beautiful stories?
Fair enough. Can't argue with that.
Yeah. I should say that as a young monk, though, when you're seeing people put food into the alms bowl, you're walking very serene and you're not supposed to look at what they're offering, and you don't look at their face, and you don't react. But inside, you're going, no, don't put the durian on there. Like, no, put the curry on my rice. Don't put the curry. Oh, you put it all over my fruit. And there was even a time I got a banana, and I made a dividing line in my bowl with the banana, so curries go on one side and sweets go on the other. And I was trying to swizzle my bowl around depending on what people were offering me. So, different things can go on the inside of the person's mind.
That's funny.
We also walk barefoot, which is another interesting tradition.
You have to walk barefoot.
Yeah, when you're going on alms round, you're supposed to walk without shoes.
Is it just a simplicity thing?
You know, back in the day, shoes were a symbol of luxury. So you were allowed shoes and you could wear shoes, but not while you're on alms round. And so they keep up that tradition today. But of course, shoes now cost like 30 baht for a cheap pair of flip-flops.
Right.
And makes sense, because here you're walking on gravel, you're walking on rat poo and rat droppings and cat droppings. You have that, leptocytosis or something that you can get. Monks' feet, if you look up the feet of monks who walk alms round every day, they are diabolical. Big, thick, huge calluses. And what happens is the skin dries and cracks. And that crack goes right the way through to the flesh. So monks who do a lot of alms round walking, they have to use rough stones and actually grind the calluses off the bottom of their feet.
Interesting.
I mean, my personal viewpoint is that you should wear shoes, but of course you can't go in the face of 2,000 years of tradition. So my voice is a very unheard voice in this particular story.
Interesting. Unintended health consequences. Is there anything that you look forward to getting if someone puts in your bowl? Do you secretly look down and go, oh, yeah?
Like a jar of Marmite?
A jar of Marmite?
Yes, that would make me float the rest of my arms round.
You do come from England, so I can see how that would be exciting.
No, like I say, you would rarely really eat the stuff that's put into your bowl unless it's in a temple on a retreat where you're specifically getting fed and that's your food. But if you're going out into the streets, you wouldn't really expect to be eating too much of that food. I did go recently down to a beach in Hua Hin, and there was no one there to feed me. I had a nice hut, but no one to feed me. So some days I would go out on alms round. People would scoot along on their motorbikes and stop you and load you up with stuff. So I would have like 5 or 6 alms bowls full, several heavy bags. But when I'd get back to my room, a lot of it's water, a heck of a lot of just plain white rice. And then what curries there were very often would be meat, which I don't eat. So I would often end up with just a bit of fruit and egg and white rice. Remember, we're not supposed to express a preference for what goes into the bowl. So.
At least not verbally.
Yes.
Yeah. Your eyes can widen when that jar of Marmite goes in.
Well, I had a story about that, which was in my temple in the early days. We would go alms round inside the temple, so we were getting our daily food that way. And the food was it was okay, it kept me alive. Can't complain too much. But it was white rice and chicken and white rice and pork. And so I'd have a few vegetables and a bit of fruit. It was okay. But one day, I saw a woman there and she had some cans of Coke. I was like, oh, man. And, you people listening, you can just go and buy a can of Coke. You think, that sounds so stupid that you would sell your dignity for a can of Coke. But I tell you, you've been in a temple for a year, these things start to really matter. In fact, people come and live in the temple for 2 weeks, and then when they leave, the first thing they do is go and get their favorite food. And so I saw this woman with with cans of Coke, and not only that, but joy upon joy, they were cold cans of Coke.
Ooh, nice.
I'm like, man, today I am a happy chap.
Nice.
So coincidentally, I had to walk reasonably nearby where she was standing with my bowl. And so she put one of these cans of Coke into my bowl. And I walked on without a reaction. And then as I looked up, I saw this little, probably 8-year-old novice monk, little kid. And he was stood right in front of me with these big, huge eyes in this like big head on a tiny little monk body. And he was looking straight at my can of Coke. And I thought to myself, here I am trying to practice for the enlightenment and betterment of all world beings, universal loving kindness. And oh God, I know what I have to do. So I had to give him this can of Coke. And it hurt. It really hurt.
Oh.
But the point of the story was that moment stood out as a moment in my life of sacrifice where I realized that, I can put aside my own desires for the happiness of other people, even if it's only a small symbolic gesture like that. So that incident stands out as a marking point in my life and something that I feel happy about now. If I had have drunk that Coke, I would have enjoyed it for 30 seconds and then it would have been lost in the mists of my unconscious.
That is a really sweet story and a good note to end the conversation on.
Okay, so I hope you learned something about Alms Round. I'm sure that many of your listeners have seen monks on Alms Round on the times when they've stayed out all night and they're very late getting back in the morning.
Hey, I think we have some responsible listeners who get up with the sun. Maybe a few. Well, thank you for coming on again and explaining. There's a lot of nuance there that I think a lot of people don't know about. And let's go and get a Coke.
Cool.
I got to say this, man. The podcast was lucky when you hooked up with Pandit because he's certainly our most common guest, but he just has this wealth of knowledge of Thai culture, obviously mostly Buddhist culture, but it's just he's such a useful resource.
Yeah, he is. He's got a ton of stuff to talk about, and he's like, he'll talk about anything. He's really, really smart, completely outside of Buddhism or Thai culture or anything. Like, he's a total science nerd and he's a tech geek. So he's just a really fascinating dude to talk to. And, we're always happy to have him on the show.
Yeah. With our shitty Thai, though, it's like we would never be able to talk to like a Thai monk. So that's why he's so special.
Yeah. He's able to sort of bridge the culture gap there a little bit more, I think, or at least explain it in a little bit more easier to digest manner for us.
Right.
So,
there's
lots of Thai monks that speak pretty good English, but it's just good to have Pandit on the show.
Right. There's this rumor going around that he might be leaving Thailand. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I think you got to hook up with him and figure out what the deal is.
Yeah, I need to meet him again. Maybe I'll head up to his temple again and have another sit down. Knock a couple more episodes out there, and we can bank them if he leaves, and he'll still live on in the hearts and minds of the Bangkok podcast listeners.
Well, the bottom line is, even if he leaves Thailand, he could still be a guest on future shows through the power of technology.
And because he's a tech geek, he'll dig how to connect with us online and record a show. So
there you go.
That's awesome. Yeah, many thanks to Phra Pandit for coming on. Really interesting discussion, and really cool to sit down with him. All right, let's get into some love, loathe, or live with, where one of us picks a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something we love about living here, loathe about living here, or have come to accept as something that we have to learn to live with no matter how we feel about it. And this week, it is your turn, dude.
All right, well, this is kind of topical because on the bonus episode, we talked about Thai fruit exports. And we talked a little about mangosteen and what a weird Thai fruit it is. So it would not be appropriate for me to ask you about mangosteen because you've already talked about that on the bonus show. But I want to ask you. I want to ask you about another Thai fruit, which I feel like kind of flies under the radar. It actually goes by a couple different names, but I'm really curious what you think about it because I think it's just there's something different about it. So I know it as snake fruit.
Are you? Oh, interesting. Are you talking about that that brown? Like it looks kind of like a testicle.
I would say it's egg shaped. I would say egg shaped.
Wow.
Greg.
Both of us are right in that phrase. So, but it's like it looks like it's got like a leather pouch kind of thing. It's brown and
the
prickly.
The skin is a little bit like snake skin, so I think that's why it's called snake fruit. Now, I don't know how common it actually is. It's actually known by a couple different names.
Yeah, and in Thai it's called salat.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, in other ways, other countries it's called salak, but I think in Thai it's just called salat. This is an interesting one because up until about a year ago, I had never had it. It does not look appealing at all. It doesn't look delicious. It doesn't look easy to eat. And I finally had a bit of it, and I really liked it.
Wow, interesting.
I thought it was surprisingly sweet. I remember it being.
So you're saying it took you 18 years to try snake fruit?
Yeah. And I thought it was really good. Have never had it again.
Oh, I brought it up only because I really like snake fruit, but I don't really have it that often. It's kind of weird. I just don't see it or come across it that much. But one thing I like about it is it's like an interesting mix of sweet and sour. Like they can be a little bit sour, which gives them like a unique flavor. But you're right. They're kind of weird. It's like you do peel the skin off and then they're kind of waxy almost. They have a weird texture.
Yeah. They're a strange fruit. And, and there's probably about half a dozen or probably even more fruit and vegetables in Thailand. And if you include vegetables, it's probably up near 20 that I have never eaten. And I've seen and I've recognized them, but I just have never eaten. And until recently, salat was one of them. But yeah, it's a weird looking fruit. And I tried it and I liked it, but I've never eaten it. That probably just is part of the trend of like the larger trend of Greg not eating healthy food. But
this is too healthy. I don't want
it. Exactly. I would say when I tried it, I loved it. I thought it was really good. I was surprised how good it was, despite how it looks.
Well, I concur. I'm a huge snake fruit fan. So listeners out there, if you've never had Thai snake fruit or salat, give it a whirl. It's different, but it's good.
Yeah, I agree.
So, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we'd like to say thank you to Bank, who happens to be a good friend of mine, great guy, for lending us his support at the show shoutout level. And Greg, what did you find out about my friend Bank?
Well, as it turns out, Bank helped us solve a mystery that we were wrestling with since the last episode, and he used memes to get the point across. Now, Ed, I'm not sure how nerdy you are, but I'm ultra nerdy and I traffic in memes every day. I love memes.
Yeah, that is true. You are a master of memes, no doubt about that.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, I'm not sure how you wouldn't know, but memes are basically a photo with an interesting caption or something that makes it relevant or references another aspect of pop culture or society or something like that. So anyway, there was I'll quickly run through it. But so on last week's episode, Ed and I discussed Pornhub's annual year in review, where they put out a bunch of statistics from various countries and locations around the world, and we discussed the statistics that they put together about Thailand. And one of them was the fact that the most searched for porn star name out of Thailand was a male porn star, which Ed found kind of confusing because he sort of is more of a statistics guy than I am. But he's like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. And I didn't really get it either because this guy is like a Farang porn star. And then Bank wrote in and he linked to an article in the Bangkok Post, which explained the reason why this guy was probably very popular, because he was part of a Thai meme going around that sort of made fun of the cultural gap between the older Thais and the younger Thais and things like that. You'll have to listen to the bonus show to get the full story on that. Anyway, Bank helped us sort out this mystery with memes. So I think that we should enlist Bank in the future to help us understand Thai culture using this like easily digestible single image that often cuts through a lot of the crap surrounding issues and just gets right to the point.
Well, I think memes are a good way to learn about pop culture. And to be honest, like I'm just not on top of Thai memes. So I think let's make Bank our official Thai meme expert.
I think so, because this is what I did. I just researching this, I typed in Thai memes in Google, and I got some really bizarre, awful ones. Hopefully Bank will help us do better than these ones. There's one with a Asian family, and it says, you see how clean their shirts are? He's a Thai dad. And apparently not Thai dad, it's Tide ad, like the detergent.
Oh,
the laundry detergent Tide.
Okay.
Which
yeah,
is
that's
lame.
bad. That's lame.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. So hopefully Bank can come up. Another one was of course there was a guy standing at a urinal holding hands with a woman who was standing at the next urinal from the back. Says from Thailand with love. That's the typical Thai meme for you. Another one was the Ermagerd girl holding a bunch of books, and it said Ermagerd Thai food, which again is pretty lame.
We need witty, deep.
Exactly. These are ridiculous.
So maybe, okay, let's do this. Let's tell Bank. Next time I see Bank, I'm going to tell him that his job is to educate us on some cool Thai memes.
Right. I think so, because the ones that I could find anyway were ridiculous. There's another one where there's two bottles on a grocery store shelf. One said Thai green curry. The other one said Thai red curry. And then someone was holding a phone next to it with a picture of Tim Curry. You know, like...
That is pretty weird. That is pretty weird.
Yeah. So Bank, you're in charge of helping us understand Thai culture using memes, because you seem to know what you're talking about, and you're able to, much like Phra Pandit, you're able to bridge the cultural gap there that might cause a few questions. So,
all right, he's the official meme expert of the Bangkok podcast.
There you go, Bank. Thanks for your support, man, and we look forward to learning more about Thailand in easily digestible chunks of photos with text attached to them.
Yeah. Thanks, Bank, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Okay, a final thanks to all of our patrons who help keep the show ad-free. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping support the show. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
Yeah, you can also listen to each episode on YouTube. You can chat with us online, or you can even reach out to me directly on Twitter, where I am BKK Greg. So thanks again for listening, everyone. Happy New Year, and we will see you back here next week.
That's right. Happy New Year, everybody.
That's what you get for making out with transvestites underneath bridges. It's an old joke I use. It's probably not the most PC thing to say. Anyway.